Hello and welcome to today's math lesson. Before we start, could you just make sure you have your equipment ready? Pen, green pen and some paper. And make sure you sit somewhere quiet that you can focus and work. Same as always, we start the lesson with the starter questions. Pause the video for 6 to 8 minutes, have a go with all questions and start the video again. Here are all the answers for a starter. Change to green pen and self-marker. In today's lesson, you will learn how to divide decimal numbers. First step, to just see how you can divide the decimal number by an integer, a whole number. And then next step is to divide two decimal numbers. So you're dividing one decimal by another decimal number. Now let's start with some examples. I have 0.72, which is a decimal number, and I'm dividing by 6, which is an integer, a whole number. The first step in division was to write the division calculation in a bus stop method. So I have 0.72 divided by 6. I can't change the order, just make sure you keep the order. 0.72 divided by 6. Then the next step was to just check how many times that 6 goes into the first digit in here. So how many times 6 goes into 0? 0. We don't have any remainder, so 0 goes in here. Now I got to the decimal point. When I got to the decimal point, I need to put the decimal point in my answer as well. Now, how many times 6 goes into 7? Once, and I have 1 left over. How many times 6 goes into 12 now? Twice, and I don't have any remainder. So that means that division finished, and the last answer is 0.12. Pause the video and have a go with this video question. Now let's go through the answers together. As we said, when we do the division, we write them in bus stop method. Then we check how many times 8 goes into 0, 0. We got to the decimal point. We put the decimal point up here in the answer. How many times 8 goes into 5? 0. 5 remainder. How many times 8 goes to 52? 6 times. 4 remainder. Because I still have a remainder, I put the 0 in here to carry on, to just make sure I carry on up to I don't get any remainder. So how many times 8 goes to 40? 5 times, no remainder. So now that I don't have any remainder, it means the calculation finished. So my last answer is 0.065. Well done if you managed to do it right. Okay, let's go through more examples. Again, 5.68, which is a decimal number, and I'm dividing by an integer. First step, to write it as a bus stop method. How many times 4 goes into 5? Once, and we have 1 left over. That remainder, that left over, goes in here. I got to the decimal point, so I need to have decimal point in my answer as well. Now, how many times 4 goes into 16? 4 times, no remainder. Now, how many times 4 goes into 8? Twice, and no remainder. So that means that calculation finished, and the last answer is 1.42. Pause the video, have a go with this video question, please. Okay, now let's go through the answers together. Again, 5.85, divide by 5. So how many times 5 goes into 5? once, no remainder. We got to the decimal point, we put the decimal point there. How many times 5 goes into 8? Once, 3 left over, 3 remainder. How many times 5 go into 35? 7 times, no remainder. So that means that calculation is finished and your last answer is 1.17. Well done if you managed to do it right. Here are more questions for you to practice. Pause the video, have a go with all questions, then start the video again. Now you can see all the answers. Change to green pen and self-market please. Very well done if you managed to do all of them right. Okay, now let's see how we can divide a decimal number by another decimal number. If you remember, the first number in division calculation we used to call it dividend, and the second number on division calculation we used to call it divisor. So if you have your divisor as a decimal number, you can't do the calculation straight away. You need to follow these steps. Let's see what are these steps. The first step is to write your calculation, to write your division as a fraction. So if I want to write that division as a fraction, I have 0.008 divide by 0.004. Make sure you keep the order. The second step is to get rid of that decimal places, decimal numbers on a denominator. But how can I do that? If you remember, if you times the number by power of 10, you can get rid of decimal places. But what power of 10 do I need to times 0.004 by to get rid of the decimal places? Let's see how many decimal places I have. I have 1, 2, 3 decimal places. So to get rid of 3 decimal places, what number do I need to times 0.004 by? Yes, that's right, 1000. Because I have 3 decimal places, I need to times it by 1000 to get rid of those 3 decimal places. Whatever I do on denominator, I need to do the same on numerator. So if I'm timesing the denominator by 1000, I have to times the numerator by 1000 as well. So if I times 0.008 by 1000, what do I get? Timesing decimal numbers. Remove the decimal point, times 8 by 1000, you get 8000. Then you have 1, 2, 3 decimal places. So I need to have 3 decimal places in my answer as well. So I got rid of those 3 zeros, so I only left with 8. And it's the same for numerator as well. So if you times 0.004 by 1000, you remove the decimal point, you times 4 by 1000, so you get 4000. Then you have 1, 2, 3 decimal places. If you put the decimal places in there, you get 4 as your answer. So you have 8 over 4. If you simplify it, if you do that division, 8 divided by 4 is 2. So the last answer for this division is 2. Because what I just done, instead of doing that calculation, I used the equivalent fraction because I just times the numerator and denominator by same number. So I got the equivalent fraction. If I find the answer for equivalent fraction, is the same answer for this one. So again, the last answer for this division is 2. Pause the video and have a go with this video question, please. Okay, let's go through the answers together. As we said, the first step was to write them as a fraction. So if I write that division as a fraction, I have 0.012 divided by 0.004. Then I check how many decimal places I have on denominator. I only care about the denominator. So I just check how many decimal places I have in denominator because I just need to get rid of the decimal places on denominator. So I have 1, 2, 3. So what number do I need to times by to get rid of those 3 decimal places? 1000. So if I times the denominator by 1000, I need to times the numerator by the same number as well. So now remove the decimal, so I have 12 times by 1000, so 12,000. Then I have 3 decimal places. If you put those 3 decimal places back, you get 12. Same in here, 4 times 1000 is 4000. 1, 2, 3, 3 decimal places back, so your last answer is going to be 4. So the equivalent fraction of this one is 12 over 4, which I know 12 divided by 4 is 3. So your last answer for this calculation, for this division calculation, is 3. Okay, now let's do more examples. Again, I have dividend as a decimal number and divisor decimal number. As I said, we can't do the division straight away if you have divisor as a decimal number. So the first step was to write them as a fraction. So if I write it as a fraction, I have that. Then I check my denominator and see how many decimal places I have. 1, 2. I need to get rid of that 2 decimal places. What number, what power of 10 do I need to times that by to get rid of those 2 decimal places? Yes, that's right, times by 100. So if you have 2 decimal places, you times by 100. So if you times the denominator by 100, you times the numerator by 100 as well. So now if I'm timesing 0.05 by 100, I remove the decimal point. I have 5 times 100, which is 500. Then I go back to the question. I can check that I have 2 decimal places. I need to have that 2 decimal places back on my answer. So I have 5.00, which is the same as 5. Same things for denominator. Remove the decimal point. 9 times 100, which is 900. Then you put those 2 decimal places back, so it's 9.00 and is the same as 9. So your last answer is 5 over 9. Pause the video, have a go with this video question, please. Now let's do this question together. Okay. As we said, again, we check the divisor. Divisor is a decimal number, so I can't do the division straight away. I need to follow those steps. The first step was to write them as a fraction. So if you write them as a fraction, you have that. Then you check how many decimal places you have on the denominator. You have 1, 2 decimal places. So you need to get rid of those 2 decimal places on denominator. For doing that, you need to times by 100. You need to do the same things on numerator, times by 100. If I timesing 0.25 by 100, I remove the decimal point, times 25 by 100, you get 2500. Then you have 2 decimal places. If you put those 2 decimal places back, you have 25 as your answer. Same on denominator, so your last answer is 25 over 9. You can write your answer simpler and change it to mixed number as well. Well done if you managed to do it right. Now here are more questions for you to do. Just to practice when you have a decimal number in a divisor. Pause the video, have a go with all questions. Here are the answers. Change to green pen and self-mark it. Just a couple of more examples. They are slightly different. Still, I'm dividing a decimal number by another decimal number. So again, the divisor is a decimal number. So I know that I need to follow those steps. But these are slightly different from what we've done in a previous slide. But let's follow those steps. The first step was to write them as a fraction. So if I write them as a fraction, I have 0.009 divided by 0.3. So I know that I have a decimal number on a denominator, and I know that I need to get rid of the decimal places on denominator. So I don't care about how many decimal places I have on denominator. I only care about the decimal places on denominator, which is a divisor. So how many decimal places I have in here? Only one. So how can I get rid of that one decimal place? What power of 10 do I need to times by to get rid of that one decimal place? 10 itself. Because I have only one decimal place, I only times by 110. If I do denominator times by 10, I need to do the same things on numerator as well. Now, if I times 0.009 by 10, if you remember, remove the decimal point, times 9 by 10, so you get 90. But then this time you have 3 decimal places. If you put those 3 decimal places back, you get 0.09 as your answer. And in here, remove the decimal point. 3 times 10 is 30. You have 1 decimal place. If you put that 1 decimal place back, you get 3.0, which is the same as 3. Now, I can't leave my answer like that. I need to do that division. So remember, if we had 0.09 divided by 3, what we used to do? To use the bus stop method. So I have 0.09 divided by 3. Now I know what to do. How many times 3 goes into 0? 0. Then I got to the decimal point. I put the decimal point up here. How many times 3 goes to 0? 0 again. And how many times 3 goes to 9? 3, and no remainder, no leftover. So that means the calculation finished, and my last answer is 0.03. So this is the answer for the division calculation. So my last answer is 0.03. Pause the video and have a go with this video question. Okay, now let's go through the answers together. Again, we have a decimal number dividing by another decimal number. So the divisor is a decimal number. I need to get rid of that decimal number here. To doing so, I need to follow this step to write them as a fraction. So if I write them as a fraction, then I need to check how many decimal place do I have on denominator on the bottom. So I have 1 decimal place. To get rid of that 1 decimal place, I only times by 110. So I times the denominator by 10. I need to times the numerator by 10 as well. If you do that multiplication, you get these. But I can't leave my answer like that, so I need to do that division. I use bus stop method to do 0.15 divided by 3. How many times 3 goes into 0? 0. You got to the decimal point. You put the decimal point up here. How many times 3 goes into 1? 0. 1 left over. And how many times 3 goes to 15? 5, and no left over. So your last answer is 0.05. Well done if you managed to do all of them right. Let's go through a couple of more examples to just make sure we are able to do these divisions. Decimal number, decimal number. I need to write them as a fraction. Then check the denominator. How many decimal places? Only one. So I need to times by only 110. Same for numerator. If I do that multiplication, I get that. I can't leave my answer like this, so I need to use the stop method or short division. So 0.15 divide by 5. How many times 5 goes into 0? 0. I got to the decimal point. I leave the decimal point on my answer. How many times 5 goes into 1? 0. 1 left over. How many times 5 goes into 15? 3 and no left over. So the last answer is 0.03. Pause the video and have a go with this video question, please. Now let's go through the answers together. Decimal number as a divisor, write them as a fraction. If you do that, check the denominator, how many decimal places you have? 1, 2. So you have 2 decimal places on denominator. To get rid of 2 decimal places, you timesing by 100. If I times the denominator by 100, I times the numerator by 100 as well. If you do that calculation, you get 1.5 over 15. I can't leave my answer like that. I need to use stop method or short division to find the answer. So 1.5 divided by 15. How many times 15 goes into 1? 0. 1 left over. I got to the decimal point. I put the decimal point up here. How many times 15 goes into 15? Once, no left over. So which means the last answer is 0.1. Well done if you managed to do it right. And the last thing for today's lesson. Have a go with all question. Pause the video, have a go with all question and start the video to check your answers. Here are the answers. Change to green pen and self-marker. This is the end of the lesson today. Make sure you take a photo of your work and send it to your class teacher. Thank you and have a good day.